In 2013, Leonardo DiCaprio stood on stage at the Oscars and thanked the man who made The Wolf of Wall Street possible. That man was Jho Low, a 31-year-old Malaysian kid with no official title and no real job, who had just stolen $4.5 billion from his own country. He used it to fund a movie about stealing money. His real name is Low Taik Jho, born in 1981 in Penang, Malaysia. His family was wealthy, not billionaire wealthy, just comfortable. But Jho Low had a problem. He wanted to be the richest person in any room he walked into. At 16, his parents sent him to Harrow, the elite British boarding school that educated Winston Churchill. That is where the act began. Low told his classmates his family was richer than they were. He threw lavish dinners. He picked up tabs he could not really afford. He was not lying for fun. He was studying, watching how power moved, learning that if you act wealthy enough, people stop asking questions. Then he went to Wharton, the most prestigious business school in America. Same playbook, bigger stage. He threw parties. He bought bottle service for tables of students he barely knew. He talked about deals and connections and billions. And slowly, people started believing him. When Low graduated in 2005, he had no money, no real connections, and no job. What he had was a network and an idea. Malaysia's government had just elected Najib Razak as prime minister. Low knew Razak's family, and he pitched him something. A sovereign wealth fund, a government investment vehicle to develop Malaysia's economy. It was called One Malaysia Development Berhad, known as 1MDB. On paper, it was a fund to build infrastructure, create jobs, and transform the country. In reality, it served as a $4.5 billion personal bank account for Jho Low. He held no official position at 1MDB. His name appeared nowhere in the company structure. He was a ghost with complete control. Here's how the money moved. 1MDB raised billions through bond offerings, essentially borrowing money from global investors by promising returns. Goldman Sachs ran the bond deals. There were 3 offerings, raising $6.5 billion. Goldman made $600 million in fees. That was the most they had ever charged for a deal like this. But Goldman did not ask enough questions, or chose not to. The money was supposed to go into investments. Instead, Low routed billions through a web of offshore shell companies, fake businesses in the British Virgin Islands, Switzerland, Singapore, and the Cayman Islands. $700 million landed in the personal bank account of Prime Minister Najib Razak. Hundreds of millions more flowed into Low's own accounts, and then he started spending. If you're going to steal $4.5 billion, you need to do something with it. Jho Low did everything with it. He bought a $250 million superyacht called the Equanimity, one of the largest private yachts on Earth. He bought a private jet. He purchased paintings by Picasso, Monet, and Basquiat. He bought a $30 million penthouse in New York City. He bought mansions in Beverly Hills and London. Between October 2009 and June 2010, just 8 months, he spent $85 million on parties alone. He ran up a $160,000 bar tab in a single night in New York City. He sent 23 bottles of crystal champagne to Lindsay Lohan's table. He paid Paris Hilton $100,000 per event just to show up to his parties. He paid Megan Fox $250,000, Kim Kardashian $50,000, and Leonardo DiCaprio $150,000 just to attend a birthday dinner. He gambled millions in Las Vegas, sometimes alongside DiCaprio. He dated Victoria's Secret supermodel Miranda Kerr, and he gave her $8 million in jewelry. By the time anyone started asking questions, Jho Low had spent more money in less time than almost any person in history. But the strangest chapter wasn't the yachts or the champagne. It was Hollywood. Low wanted in, not just to party with celebrities. He wanted to be a producer, to have his name on movies, to be legitimate. So he created Red Granite Pictures, a film production company, and backed it with stolen money from one MDB. Their first major project was a Martin Scorsese film based on the memoir of convicted fraudster Jordan Belfort, The Wolf of Wall Street. Warner Brothers had passed on it. The budget was too high, and the content too risky. Red Granite stepped in with $100 million. And suddenly Scorsese was shooting, DiCaprio was starring. The film went on to gross $392 million worldwide and earned 5 Oscar nominations. At the ceremony, DiCaprio thanked Jho Low personally. The irony is almost impossible to write. A man who had just committed the largest government corruption scandal in history funded a movie about a man who committed fraud and sat in the front row while the world applauded. In 2015, a blogger named Claire Rucastle Brown broke the story open. She published documents showing that nearly $700 million had been deposited directly into Prime Minister Najib Razak's personal bank account. Malaysian investigators opened a case. Then they shut it down. Government officials were quietly reassigned. Prosecutors were replaced. But the story was out, and it wasn't going away. The Wall Street Journal picked it up. Then the New York Times. Then every major outlet in the world. The United States Department of Justice launched its own investigation, calling it the largest case in the history of their kleptocracy asset recovery initiative. Interpol issued a red notice for Low in 2016. He vanished. Everything began to collapse. The Department of Justice seized Low's private jet, his super yacht, the Equanimity, his New York penthouse, and his art collection. Miranda Kerr surrendered $8 million in jewelry to federal investigators. DiCaprio returned the Picasso and the Basquiat. Goldman Sachs was charged with bribery and conspiracy. They eventually paid out $5 billion in fines and settlements to regulators in the United States, Malaysia, the United Kingdom, and beyond. Red Granite paid $60 million to settle with the Department of Justice and stopped producing films entirely. Najib Razak stood trial in Malaysia. In 2020, he was convicted on 7 counts of corruption, abuse of power, and money laundering, and was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Jho Low has been a fugitive since 2015, nearly a decade on the run. He has been reported in Taiwan, Macau, and China. He was allegedly filmed at Shanghai Disneyland on Christmas Eve 2019 on a witness's cell phone. In 2025, reporters located him living in a mansion in an ultra-wealthy neighborhood in Shanghai, traveling the city under a fake identity, protected by the Chinese government. Interpol has a red notice on him. Malaysia wants him. The United States wants him. In his own public statements, Low has denied everything. He claims he borrowed the money. He claims the charges are political persecution. He claims he did nothing wrong. The man who stole $4.5 billion from one of the poorest developing nations in Southeast Asia says he did nothing wrong. Bernie Madoff stole $65 billion. He died in prison. Jho Low stole $4.5 billion. He's still out there. The biggest difference between them? Madoff's sons turned him in. Jho Low never had anyone who would. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this one about frauds, con artists, and the people who got away with it, subscribe so you do not miss what's next.